The Avanhard Stadium in Pripyat was built in 1986 with a capacity of 11,000, a brand new stadium that had been completed in April of that year. The citizens of Pripyat, the small town that sits just a few miles from the Vladimir Ilyich Lenin Nuclear Power Plant, or Chernobyl Power Plant, were football mad, often filling their former, far more modest stadium with spectators, despite FC Stroitel Pripyat playing in the 5th division of Soviet football. May 1st, 1986 was the date that the new Avanhard Stadium was due to open, but of course, it never did. It never hosted a football match, and today, like the rest of Pripyat, it stands unused and overgrown. Hey there, I'm Adrian, and welcome to Rabona TV, where today we'll be looking at the story of FC Stroitel Pripyat, their promising rise prior to the Chernobyl meltdown on April 26, 1986, and their disbandment shortly after. Again, Zhuang, the moderator, with a great suggestion. The city of Chernobyl has stood for a long time, with it first being mentioned in the history books as early as 1193. It's situated in present-day northern Ukraine, about 2 hours from Kyiv by car. It was an industrial city that specialized in boat repairs following World War II, given that it sits on the river Pripyat. This detail was key in the Soviet Union's Ministry of Energetics' decision to build a nuclear power plant near Chernobyl, given that large amounts of water are required to run nuclear power plants, like many kinds of power plants. However, the plant wasn't to be built in Chernobyl, but 20 kilometers further north in the area now known as Pripyat. According to Chernobyl.in.ua, present-day Pripyat was, quote, optimal, due to the existence of a nearby railway station, a highway, and of course, the river. Construction of the Vladimir Ilyich Lenin Nuclear Power Plant, or simply the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant, began in 1972, but the nearby city of Pripyat, which would serve as the home of the power plant workers, their families, and all other essential services for the area, began on February 4th, 1970. The plans for the Chernobyl power plant were that it would be the biggest nuclear power plant in the world, while the plans for Pripyat were that it would grow to a population of about 80,000 people and be a shining example of a nuclear town in the Soviet Union. In fact, it was just that. It was awarded for its architecture and civil planning. The first reactor of the 4 that were completed began operations in 1977. The plant had its first scare in 1982 when a cooling issue caused a partial meltdown in the first reactor, but other than that, all 4 reactors were up and running by 1983. By the way, they initially had planned to have 10 reactors at this power plant. Speaking of up and running, society itself was truly up and running in Pripyat as well. Art schools, cinemas, medical centers, libraries, hotels, cultural centers, and of course, football. During the mid-1970s, FC Stroitel Pripyat was founded as a means for the construction workers of the power plant and burgeoning city to have some fun, whether playing or watching. The Russian word Stroitel translates to builder in English, so it was a natural choice for the team made up mostly of men who were literally building up Pripyat, many of which came from the nearby village of Chistogolovka, according to sports.ru. Just as many major European teams were founded by various industry workers, the same could be said of the regional teams that were cropping up in the Soviet Union. But the team didn't exist just for the players and workers, but for the people of Pripyat as well. As FourFourTwo wrote, Vasily Kazima, the head of construction in Pripyat, said that, quote, I have people working in 4 shifts and there's no place for them to go and rest, explained Kazima. Let them go and watch some football and drink some beer. Despite being located a couple hours north of Kyiv, FC Stroitel Pripyat competed in the Kyiv Regional League. Chistogolovka, where many of Pripyat's builders came from, was also known for having a talented footballing side, so naturally, Stroitel had a talented footballing side as they poached a lot of them. And they won the Kyiv Amateur Division in 81 and 82. They weren't just made of construction workers at the time though, that wasn't a necessity to be eligible for the team. Local students studying in Pripyat joined the team, as did talented players from the surrounding areas. Former player and power plant worker Valentin Litvin said of these talented recruits, these were called snowdrops, says Litvin. They were named this because, like the flowers, they arrived late in winter. They received salaries from the power plant and were listed on the payroll, but they didn't do any work. With these players and a talismanic coach and former Soviet striker Anatoly Shepel at the helm, Pripyat won the regional cup competition in 3 consecutive seasons from 81 to 83, though they weren't great in the league, at least in their initial few seasons.
Most Soviet nuclear plants do not have containment buildings.
By all accounts, FC Stroitel Pripyat was a team on the rise, their 3 consecutive cup wins being a testament to that, as well as their league form, which in 1985 saw them finish second, just 4 points behind the eventual champions. Promotion eluded them once again, though they did set the record for the most goals scored in a match, smashing, just 13 into the Lokomotiv's Znamenka goal. With Stroitel making strides regionally, Vasily Kazima, head of construction, you'll remember, the guy who wanted people to watch football and drink beer, ordered that while building a 5th reactor was important for Chernobyl, so was building a bigger stadium to fit more people there. On April 26, 1986, Stroitel were scheduled to play in a cup semi-final against Machino Stroitel, or the Machine Builders. According to Sports.ru, Machino Stroitel's players were training ahead of the match when a helicopter carrying hazmat-suited workers landed on the pitch and told them that there would be no football played on that day due to an incident at the local nuclear power plant. Quite the incident indeed. At 1:23 a.m., the early morning of April 26, 1986, 2 explosions occurred in reactor number 4 during an experiment. The force of the explosions blew the roof off of the reactor, exposing the active core. I won't go through all of the details here, but it's important to note that experts say that the Chernobyl disaster, in comparison to the bomb dropped on Hiroshima, was 400 times stronger in regards to the amount of nuclear material that was released into the world. The entire city of Pripyat had to be evacuated, yet some of the Stroitel players, who were still workers at the power plant, had to stay to help with the cleanup job. Litvin, Stroitel's captain at the time, was one of those players, as you can see him here in 1987 working as a liquidator. He was one of the men that had to go into the basement of the reactor to aid the cleanup job. A truly terrifying job. I don't know if you saw the HBO series Chernobyl, but don't envy those guys. As for Stroitel, they ceased to exist until 1987 when they returned as FC Stroitel Slavutic, Slavutic being the city that was thrown together to host those that were evacuated from Pripyat. Slavutic didn't exist for long, as they ceased activity in 1988, then changed to just FC Slavutic. They dropped the Stroitel in 94. But again, the 98 season was their last one. So for that reason, you can't help but feel that Stroitel Pripyat truly stopped to exist in 1986. It vanished with the rest of the population that was evacuated from the city. Their brand new stadium never saw them play a single match, as May 1st, the day of its opening, was meant to celebrate the workers during the workers' holiday. Now it's a crumbling ruin with pine trees where the players were supposed to be and rotting terraces. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, then consider subscribing for more stories from football's past. I'm Adrian, this is Rabona TV /IneedAhaircut.com. I love ya, take care.